Alright, hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Hammer Down Ranked, where we rank the albums of some of my favourite bands. Now today is a sad story. We are ranking the albums of Our Hollow Our Home, metalcore band from Southampton who have just broken up and unfortunately pulled out of Hammer Down Festival 2024. We have sorted replacements. The amazing Scarlet Right have joined us, and we bumped Esoterica with the Parallax Orchestra up to headline and given them an extended set, which is going to be amazing. But today what we're going to do is we're going to go through the records by Our Hollow Our Home, see if we can rank them and get to the bottom of all the drama that happened in the band, because it has been a messy journey. So Our Hollow Our Home, they formed in late 2012, early 2013 in Southampton, which in my humble opinion has one of the best metal scenes anywhere in the UK. I've spent time in many cities across the country. I lived in Southampton for a couple of years. It is awesome. Venues like the Joiners, which have been around forever, and that is a venue that really fosters and adopts the alternative scene and allows bands to grow through the ranks. Bands like Creeper, Bury Tomorrow, who are, Southampton's metalcore titans, arguably one of the best metalcore bands the UK has ever produced, are from Southampton. It's an awesome scene and it fostered a lot of talented bands, including obviously Our Hollow Our Home. So the five guys that started the band had previously been in other bands in and around the scene. They all knew each other anyway. On vocals, Connor Hallisey. On guitars, Tobias Young and Josh White. On bass, Tim Houlihan, and on drums, James Tucker. In their time, they released 3 full albums and a 7-track EP, which is going to count in these rankings today because it's nearly an album, and a load of tracks towards the end of their career, and we're going to come back to that later on in the video. So I first saw Our Hollow Our Home way back when. I couldn't actually find the date of the show, but it was supporting a band called Our Last Night over in, I think, the Garage in London, but could also have been in Camden Underworld, I'm not sure. And since then, I've seen them at many shows. I saw their album launch tour for Heartsick in 2017. They even ran their own festival called Halloween. They ran it every October for 3 years. I went to the first 2 of those and they were absolutely awesome. But for now, let's get into it. So in number 4, we have 2015's Redefine EP. So the EP shouldn't really be in this list, as I've already mentioned, but it's got 7 songs on it. They're really, really great, and I wanted to include it in this list. This EP contains Rest Assured, which is the song that has the most views of any of their videos on YouTube currently. It's just tipped over 1 million views to date, and this is a pretty great debut. I mean, it features some really awesome songs like For What It's Worth and If Those Were Guns, Reggie Be Dead. And overall, it is a really good record. Yes, it's a little bit more raw than the later stuff, not as finely polished, but the sounds that started on this EP carries all the way through their career. You can hear a Hollow song and you know what it is. So after this, James and Tim left the band and were replaced by Nick Taliadoris and Matt Tubb. But overall, good EP, great debut for the band, but we're going to talk about the albums now. Now, the way that I rank albums on this channel is I listen to the album in full, one after the other, over the course of a couple of days, whatever, and I give the songs a rating out of 10, and then I add that up and get an average for each album. Now, usually there's a couple of points between the better albums. Between the 3 records, there is a single point between all 3 of them. There is something so consistent about Our Hollow Our Home's discography. You hear a Hollow song, you know what it is straight away. You know Nick's drums sound very, very clear. Both Toby and Connor's voices are incredibly standout. You know when you're listening to a Hollow song, and the consistency between the 3 records, they're all pretty much as good. I mean, this is by far the tightest any of our videos have been. Every band that we've ranked have had albums that I've been like, yeah, no, that's good, but not as good as this stuff. Whereas Our Hollow, yeah, I mean, all 3 of these are absolutely awesome albums, but just about in number 3, we've got 2018's In Moment in Memory. So the first song that we got from this record was Speak of Sorrow, the first single. Beast of a tune, certainly blew me away. And it was followed up by In Memory with a very mature and very, very well put together music video. Nick is an awesome videographer. He's done music videos and production for lots of bands that I have worked with over the years. His company's 6 Point Media, I would highly recommend. Very, very good stuff. My old band, like a decade ago, almost had a music video done by him actually, but it never quite materialised. My favourite song on the record by a country mile is Love Lost. That song is awesome. It's got my favourite chorus of any Our Hollow Our Home song ever on it. It's awesome. But the sadder side of the album, the song Parting Gift, was dedicated to Toby's father, who passed away during the recording of this album. There was an incredibly passionate speech on stage by Toby at the hot 2nd edition of their Halloween festival, Halloween, which was part of this album cycle, and it is an incredibly mature look at loss and how people can get through it. It's a beautiful song. It builds really, really nicely to a heavier end of the song where Connor comes in on the vocals too. It's a lovely, lovely track, great tribute, and the whole album is dedicated to Toby's father. It's a fantastic body of work. I also really like Disconnect as well. Disconnect is great too. But now to the two albums that are tied on points, and I had to make a decision after a re-listen as to where to put them. But before that, I don't have a dedicated shirt today. I wanted to wear my old Our Hollow Our Home shirt as a tribute on this particular video because they've obviously just disbanded. It's very, very sad, and I've had this shirt for probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years now, and I love this band, and it's just all very sad. But anyway, we're going to get straight into the top two albums. It was very, very tricky, but I went in number 2 with 2021's Burn in the Flood. This was tough to place here. The first song that we got naturally was the title track, Burn in the Flood. Music video, super powerful, lots of sparks and flames going on. It was a real, hello, we're back song. And then after that, we have an absolute barrage of featurings on this album. We've got Ollie Duncanson from The City Is Ours. We've got Ryo Kinoshita from Crystal Lake. And Lockie Keogh from Alpha Wolf. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, no idea. But they really upped the ante on this album. Featurings all over the place. What a record. The only difference in sound between the three albums, in my opinion, is just the extra little bits that they do. There's slightly better drum fills, or there'll be slightly more mature lyrics. The tweaks are so tiny as the albums go through. But I think on Burn in the Flood, with this rendition of the band, was their best produced album. It was the album with the most intelligent writing. They fine-tuned a very distinct sound. They weren't doing anything drastic. They weren't changing their sound every album like Bring Me the Horizon, which is fine to do, by the way, but Hollow really nailed a very specific craft. I think the song Blood is the best composed song they've ever written. It is a super wonderfully beautiful, mature song. It features a little bit of everything. Connor's lyrics in there are great. I really, really like Toby's parts. I really like the echoey vocals scattered about from Toby in that song. Yeah, Blood is one of my favourites. It's certainly my favourite of the more chilled out, emotional Hollow Our Home songs. So what happened after this album? Well, we're going to come to that after we talk about number 1, because there was a whole range of releases that went on post our number 1 album. And we're going to talk about a little bit about the journey after Burning the Floods and all the drama that went on. But number 1, it is the debut records 2017's Heartsick. Bobby Brooks and Nick Taliadoris. As I mentioned earlier, this is the first album that they feature on. Now, as I said, it had the same amount of points in my little way of ranking the albums as Burning the Flood. They were equally as good, but I think the only thing that picked it for me is just the memories and the passion, the time that I spent with the bands on this album cycle. This was the album cycle that I fell into love with the band with. I went to the album launch tour. I went to the Southampton date, sold out show at the Joiners where they filmed the Heartsick music video. You can probably spot a tiny, scrawny, weaselly little Harry White in that video somewhere. I went to the first Halloween, which was during that album cycle a few months later. That was incredible. That was at a venue called Talking Heads in Southampton, which is now closed down. It had Crystal Lake, it had lots of bands, it was great. This album features the most streamed single, the song that went very viral for the band, Lone Shock. It doesn't even have a music video, it just went nuts. It's got over 11 million streams to date on Spotify. It's considerably more than anything else they've ever put out. But for me, that song isn't even in the top 5. This album is rammed full of belters. Carmadillo, awesome song. Wormswood was the song I first fell in love with from the band. At the time, it was the heaviest thing I was listening to, and it is an epic song, just right from the first beat. It's just intense. Thrown to the Wolves, and my personal favourite song from this album, second favourite song by them of all time, Pride of Might and Main. They have a music video for this song that was recorded whilst the band was stranded for several days on a European tour after their van broke down in Austria, and they just thought, well, why don't we record a great music video whilst we're up here? We've got all the gear, let's just do it. So yeah, for me, this album is just amazing. I've got so many memories with this band that I've shared over the years. It's really, really great. But unfortunately, everything went a bit downhill from there. So after Burning the Flood in November 2021, Bobby and Nick both quit at exactly the same time, with some statements regarding focusing on their company, 6 Point Media, and also some drama finger pointing at one of the other members of the band. And by February 2022, they'd been replaced by Larry Welling and Alex Rayner, who's from the band Shields. We then got a 3-song EP called Idle Waves. All 3 songs on that are great, really, really awesome. On this EP, they signed to a rising empire, major label. The 3 songs that they put out were awesome, including Battle X City featuring Samantha Bauer of Lightwave, who is coincidentally Toby's fiancée. But then, after that EP, things with the Rising Empire were very short-lived with this lineup. In February of 2023, 4 of the 5 members of the band, Josh, Nick, Bobby, and Connor, all parted ways with Toby with immediate effect, saying they were leaving Our Hollow Our Home. Now, I don't want to go into the drama of it because I don't know all of the facts, but it was clear they weren't happy with what was going on within the band. You can read into that as you want, but it was certainly a dramatic situation. Now, Toby decided that he wasn't done with the band and he wanted to rebuild things. So the last songs featuring all of those band members were released on a rerun, a deluxe version of Burn in the Flood, which came out a couple of months later, featuring a few extra songs which were fantastic, as well as the 3 on that Idle Waves EP. And then it didn't take Toby long to sort things out. He auditioned for members. He wanted to audition people, reform and write a new album, and he achieved that. And in July they announced an awesome new lineup with James Hackett on guitar, Kieran Tonks on drums, Matthew Thompson on bass, and Gaz King, who is the ex-vocalist of From Sorrow to Serenity. Now, with this new lineup, oh boys, I said to Toby when everything went down, I've wanted to book Our Hollow Our Home forever, and once you rebuild this band, I will book you to headline Hammerdown Festival. And once they sorted it out, I did book them. I went to go and see them with the new lineup at Reading Rising Festival in November last year, which is an awesome event, by the way. And they were great. They were really, really good. Was it as good as the old lineup? I'd say not yet. There was time for them to do so, but at the time the live show wasn't quite as excellent as the previous lineups, but I'm sure it would get there. But the songs that they released with this new lineup, whoo! First we got Downpour. Downpour is one of my top 5 Our Hollow Our Home songs of all time. The video is now one of the most viewed of any of their music videos. It was an absolute belter. For me, that is the standout. You put that on any Hollow album and that's one of the 2 or 3 best songs on the record. We had Funeral Verse, great song. Vale Walker, man, that's a really, really good one. And then the band imploded. With 17 days to go until Hammerdown Festival 2024, all 4 of the 5 members, excluding Toby, once again all quit with immediate effect, cancelling all shows they had coming up. Now, you can read into that as you will. They had a full album. Multiple members have gone on to be asked, what's going to happen to this album? We've heard 3 songs. They're great. What's going on now? Well, the band have said it's kind of up to a Rising Empire and Toby what happens to that album, but it's unlikely it'll air. However, surprisingly, the day before I recorded this video, Gaz posted on Facebook one last music video that they obviously recorded whilst the band was still together for Burial Season, which is awesome. My goodness, I'm sure this album is incredible. It could even be Our Hollow Our Home's best ever album, but we can't put it in the ranked video because it's not here. We've only got 4 songs. But now that we've heard that 4th song, I mean, obviously they've released it via a Rising Empire because they already had video recorded. Now, what's interesting with these 4 songs is they still sound like Our Hollow Our Home. Yes, of course, Gaz's vocals are different to Connor's, but with Toby still doing vocals and the instruments sounding very similar. Okay, I think the drums, Kieran's drumming style was very different to Nick's, but the sound of things is so Our Hollow Our Home still. You can still put it on and go, I might not recognise that guy's voice, but the band still sound like Our Hollow Our Home. Read into that as you will. But what about the rest of these songs? Will they see the light of day? I don't know. I would like it to, and if so, I'll do a reaction video and I will place it within the rankings for Our Hollow Our Home. So yeah, sad situation. Certainly screwed me over. Not ideal, but Our Hollow Our Home, one of my favourite bands. Gutted that after 10 years of working my way up to a level where I'd get to work with them, it doesn't materialise in the end with 17 days notice. I'd said in multiple interviews this year on radio and on podcasts and stuff that for me this was a real coming of age, that I was booking a band that as a teenager I went to their gigs and bought their t-shirts and got excited and fanboyed over them, and now I was able to book bands at that level. That was really, really cool. Never happened, is what it is, but regardless of all of the drama, regardless of the Hammerdown situation, I do wish all 5 of the guys all the best, as well as all the ex-members as well, absolutely. And if Toby decides to do a 3rd full rebrand of this band, like thousands of other people across the globe, I'll still listen because Our Hollow Our Home are damn awesome. So let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if you think I got it right. Let me know what your favourite record is. And also let me know who else you want me to rank. But other than that, have an awesome day. We'll see you in the next one.